Today we're gonna be ranking the difficulty of the main bosses in the Elden Ring DLC. Do keep in mind that this is just my personal opinion and is based on the experiences I've had with specific bosses. In classic Souls fashion, some bosses that were really hard for me could be extremely easy for a whole bunch of other people. The builds I use throughout this video will vary, but rest assured I used no spells, no summons, and no spirit ashes. I will also be bringing up the concept of artificial difficulty a lot, so watch thoroughly if you want more info on that. With that being said, let's just jump straight into the list. Starting us off at number 9, and yes, Shadow of the Erdtree has only 9 main bosses, not 10 unfortunately, which would have been a much cooler rounded up number. We have Roma, Saint of the Pod. I'm gonna be honest, this boss is easy, just a straight plummet downwards in difficulty compared to the other main bosses. Even Verana before her is harder honestly, and I mean easy with huge quotation marks, because this is Elden Ring after all. Her attacks are highly telegraphed, her weapon literally glows when she's about to attack you. What's weird is that she has audio cues when she's about to attack you, which I feel should have been implemented on a throwaway boss who you don't want to make too difficult, not on someone as important as her. She has no phase 2, but much like Malenia and other bosses, she has a special attack that she does when she reaches 60% HP or less, which again is extremely telegraphed and easy to avoid. The only attacks I can see hitting on a regular basis are her twin scorpion body parts dancing around frantically with huge hitboxes that never disappear throughout the whole attack. These attacks in particular are quite a bit janky, but the damage is just so toned down you can barely call it an inconvenience. Not to mention that the Scarlet Rot pool in her area does not even cause Scarlet Rot buildup, it just stops the status effects from going down. If you slap the immunizing Horn Charm on your build, you can just forget the fact that she is literally the Saint of the Pod. At number 8 we have the disappointing boss fight of Mesmer the Impaler. It sucks that I had to put it this high on the list, but the boss fight itself does not live up to the hype of this character. Not only does he have just a couple of attacks that you can easily learn to avoid, but everything about him, from his arena to how you get to him, seems really counterintuitive. This has nothing to do with the fight itself, but I feel like FromSoft tried really hard to make him be the Malenia of the DLC and really actually failed. I mean, they are the characters who have a $200 figure as pre-order bonus, so I think it's only fair that I compared the two. Otherwise, Mesmer is unironically one of the most badass characters I have ever seen in any video game. To some extent, the whole game is set around him. I mean, he is literally the guy on the front cover of the DLC. He even has so much screen time in the video cinematics. Like, this guy who has the most mommy issues out of all the demigods was supposed to be the most entertaining and bone-chilling boss in the whole game, and what did he do to him? He doesn't even drop a great rune like he should. He just slapped him in a random hidden tossed away room, making him seem like more of a prisoner than king of the castle. I could talk a lot about how dirty they did my man, but I'm gonna stick only to the boss fight. The difficulty is fair, far from artificial. In his second phase, he does rely on his snake attacks a lot, but I don't see a problem in that. Switching between forms is really cool, and it reminds me of what Reichardt's boss fight could have been if it wasn't a cheese boss fight on purpose. My Scatter Tree Blessing was about level 15 when I fought him, which is a lot, but I took a lot of time exploring, literally trying to find him, only to randomly find his boss room when I was looking for Ansbach to finish his questline. Overall, he is a shadow of his potential, and I really wish I had more nice things to say about his boss fight. At number 7 we have the Divine Beast Dancing Lad. This boss is the first major slap in the face besides this guy. The boss is definitely where you begin to understand why this DLC is criticized for being too hard. Even though it is the first boss in the expansion, unless you decide to go to Verana first like an absolute psychopath, it is a massive pain. Especially because at that point in the game, you will not have a lot of Scatter Tree fragments. I was at about level 5 when I fought this beast, and it was quite a challenge. Its moves are limited to just a couple of basic combos, but the mix-ups and delayed attacks are, well, how you would expect them to be in the DLC. The main problem that really stands out is the jankiness. This boss is composed of 2 people with magical levitating abilities holding up a massive head. It was never gonna be easy to build up a boss with a structure that complex and make it still an enjoyable fight. 10 out of 10 points for creative choice though. But besides the projectile attacks, this boss kind of falls flat. It is a jank fest to some extent. You don't know when hitboxes are active, and it's difficult to know what is an attack and what is just movement, and I would have liked to have a fight that goes smooth and clean, not confusing and bulky. At number 6 we have the Putrescent Knight. Look, I have neither watched Berserk or read Janji Ito, but I can already tell that Miyazaki clearly drew inspiration from one of these two, if not both. The fall you have to take to get to this boss is really sick, and it reminded me a lot of Midra from Dark Souls 3. For an optional boss, he is not as hard as you may think, especially because you can fight him at any point in the game that you want. I was at about Schedule 3 level blessing 13-14 when I fought him, and I was dealing about 1000 damage per hit with a two-handed Sword of Night and Flame. The addition of blue fire attacks integrates really well with the personality tonality and surroundings of the boss, adding a layer of complexion to the immersion and the gameplay. I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea that you had to jump over the fire attacks to avoid them, so I kinda just used the silver tier mirror shield. It worked great when he was doing his 60% HP attack, because he was not alternating between these and his physical attacks, but when he was integrating them into his combos, I mainly just tried to run away and to block them individually. The fact that he pulls his hitbox away from you while you try to attack him can be frustrating at times, but it can be overcome if you learn to be patient and space properly. Now, I wanna ask the lore masters, what do putrescent people have to do with Saint Trina? Was she locked up by them, protected by them? I knew we were gonna meet Saint Trina in the DLC, I just didn't expect it to be so sudden and random. At number 5 we have Midra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame. If you take the time to read the item descriptions of these weapons, you will understand that this dude is a total OG. His visuals are stunning and I love that they expanded upon the Frenzied Flame. His fight is great. It is fast-paced, smooth, clean, no jank, and it feels really rewarding to learn his moveset. Even though he does not have complex moves to learn to avoid, the sheer quantity of swings and spells he uses is enough to keep you locked in and hyper-focused at all times. Besides the borderline mundane, comically large AoE he does when he reaches phase 2, in my opinion. Honestly, attacks like this have just become repetitive and I really wish they could think of something else to add when the boss reaches 60 or 50% HP. Mix-ups on bosses are really a touchy subject. What I mean by that is moves that start with basic opener and have many different branches of attacks they can follow up with. Midra does this just right. It creates a reaction-based fight that rewards swift reflexes and being locked in. Really, he is a great mix between difficulty and satisfaction. He is boss design done right. Fun, challenging, rewarding, and leaves you wanting more out of the Frenzied Flame. Also, please read the item descriptions of the Frenzied Flame Torch and his greatsword. You will be so much more immersed. Please, I beg you. At number 4 we have Commander Gaius. Also known as Commander Gaius, everyone hates this guy. He does not deserve to have an entire arena dedicated to him. For how random he is placed in the game, literally just guarding I think 5 Scadutree fragments, I don't get why they had to make another unique boss fight instead of just slapping a porcupine pig or a divine beast dancing lion there. I hate that the game gives you the false hope that you can fight him while riding Torrent. The main advantage of summoning your steed is that you can quickly disengage and engage, which doesn't work here because this guy literally has a built-in sprint that is faster than yours if you try to run away. He isn't that hard when you really get the hang of him, it's just that the hitboxes are really inconsistent, especially on his initial charge attack. You can avoid his lance pretty easily just by dodging, but his pig is honestly just kind of annoying to have to deal with. His damage is crazy amped up, he hits like a truck, and some of his moves are just innate one-shots. One upside is that at the very least, he fights you head-on and doesn't like running away from you, like the Night Rider Cavalry. If I were to compare him to another boss, I would probably say that he is an Erdtree Sentinel on crack. I hope you guys had a better time fighting him than I did, and that someone on Reddit finally figured out how to dodge his charging attack. Overall, he's kind of a mix between random hitboxes being thrown and unnecessarily boosted damage. Next up we have Curse You Bale! And oh man, what a cool boss number 3 is. I just want to say that this is my favorite boss of the DLC, but I will try my best to give an unbiased opinion on this one. Bale is actually potentially one of the first bosses you may come across in the DLC. The path to him is pretty straightforward and it may lead you to believe that you are just progressing the game as you normally would. Well, if the 2 dragon boss fights that are right next to each other aren't enough to deter you from progressing until you have a higher Scadutree level, you will face Bale, and his HP pool is just massive. It is astronomically high. I fought him at about Scadutree level 9 and my attacks were barely tickling him. One small problem about his fight is camera tracking. Sometimes it feels like you are fighting the camera angle more than the boss. For some reason you can only lock onto his head, which he tends to move a lot. Sure, that's no problem while he's flying up into the sky, but while he is grounded, which is for most of the fight, your viewpoint will fly all over the place, adding an extra level of difficulty that is less about learning and improving and more about knowing when to lock and unlock. Aside from that, his flame breath attack hitbox is pretty inconsistent as the attack itself is glued to the ground, which is uneven. So sometimes when it hits a little bump, it takes unexpected turns towards the players. This is by all means artificial difficulty. I think one of the most challenging aspects about the boss fight being the camera angle and bad attack tracking is not good design. The fight is flashy, quick, and looks visually appealing, but it's gonna be really hard not to notice some BS when actually fighting him. That being said, he still holds a special place in my heart just for how absolutely amazing he looks. I love the road you need to take to get to him, and even though he is unnecessarily difficult, he is one of my favorites. At number 2 we have Verana, the Twin Moon Knight. Anyone who has gotten to her, which doesn't take that long, will know exactly why she is literally the second hardest boss in the DLC. Her difficulty is exaggerated, it is unbelievably difficult. People are justifiably calling her the Malenia of the DLC, and I 100% see why. Not only does she have literally tens of combos that she can do, but much like Malenia, she has the ability to animation cancel her attacks and begin new attack strings. That alone is insane for a character this early into the game, not to mention the fact that she can delay almost every single one of her attacks. I seriously think that if I had not purposefully gone out of my way to fight Malenia before entering the DLC, I would have died 10 times more than I did. She has everything: projectiles with good tracking, dodges, dodge attacks, delays, combos, animation cancels, multiple AoEs that cover the entire arena, gap closers, answers to magic, and more. Good thing she is parryable at least. Because of this, people are comparing her to Pontiff Sullivan from Dark Souls 3. They're both mid-game bosses with glowy weapons. But this could not be further from the truth. Verana is endgame boss level difficulty. It feels extremely rewarding to defeat her though, because the difficulty is entirely skill based and not at all artificial. The boss fight is well designed, but it is extremely unforgiving. Before we get to the hardest boss in all of Elden Ring, make sure to like and subscribe as it helps out the channel immensely. At number 1 we have Promised Consort Radahn. This is undoubtedly the most controversial boss fight in the entire Dark Souls history. This boss fight has a glaring, outstanding issue. Promised Consort Radahn's difficulty is artificially implemented. What do I mean by this? I want you to look at the first phase. Just by doing this, we can already see a couple of issues. First off, the camera angle. Because Radahn moves so much during his attacks, and because he is 6 foot and you are 5'11", he is about triple your size. This wouldn't be so bad if you fought at a distance, but the problem is that, much like me looking at the IRL Moonlight Greatsword replica, he does anything to get to you. As a consequence, most of the time you are gonna look at his chest hole rather than his arms and his weapons. Besides this, his first phase is mostly fine. I should mention though that he does enjoy spamming an attack that falls into the I can hit you but you can't hit me category, and that he has an attack that is literally impossible to dodge. Yep, I mean it. You can sprint it, strafe it, roll it, or jump it. If you dodge the first part, the second one will 100% connect. This is a big case of artificial difficulty, but it's not nearly as bad as the second phase. This part of the fight is just lazy. It is almost identical to the first phase, but then you have extra hitboxes added because why not? We had to make the game hard somehow, guys. Aside from like 4 different new attacks that he has in his arsenal now, the boss fight remains literally the same. Just a bunch of extremely fast attacks with inconsistent, to say the least, hitboxes launched every second. Everyone expected way more out of the final boss of the game, and we were all left with a sour taste in our mouths. I sincerely wish that I could have put Miquella and Radahn on the number 1 spot on the list because they were hard in a Verana way and not in, well, their way. Everyone loved Radahn in the base game, but they did his comeback dirty in the DLC. Miquella, you should have left him and Moog dead. But that's it, guys. I want to thank you a bunch for watching. If you have a different take on my ranking, please let me know in the comments below. Aside from that, please consider liking and subscribing, as it would honestly mean the world to me. This video took a lot of time to make, so I could really use all the support that you guys can give me. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.